Hi, I'm Bo Middleton, your Tarter product specialist. I'm here today with Ryan White. Ryan, what's the first thing you do when you're going to flip your tines?
Absolutely. I think it's the easiest to leave it attached to the tractor, but you want to make sure that you unhook the PTO shaft from the tractor. And then always put some jack stands underneath, just in case. You don't know what could happen. Someone could hit a lever or something, just so it can't drop on top of you.
And then we have gloves, safety glasses, and the tools we're going to use. Everything's 3/4, correct?
Yes, so the bolts for the tine bar and the gearbox both require a 3/4 inch wrench. I would recommend an impact if you have one available.
What would be our first step?
Yeah, so we're gonna work on the tiller from the back side. So the first thing I would do is remove the tailgate so we can get full access underneath the tiller.
All right, so I'll remove this Carter pin over here.
We'll just unhook the chain from the adjustment hook. So the important part about why we care about the tine bar is these tines are only sharpened on one side. So when we reverse the direction, we're going to want to flip that entire tine bar assembly around so we have the tines, the sharpened end, pointing the correct way.
All right, Ryan, I know our tiller's up. We're ready to lower it. And you said earlier, don't lower it all the way to the ground. Why is that?
Yeah, so those bolts that we just loosened, we don't want to put the whole weight of this tiller on those, making it difficult to pull them out of their holes on each side. So we want to leave just a little bit of room there.
All right, if you want to go ahead and lower it, I'll watch and make sure we hit it right. That'll probably be good right there.
Okay. Just by flipping the tines, all we've done is change which side of the tine that the cutting edge is on. In order to actually till in reverse, we now have to flip the top gearbox over, and that's what actually reverses the direction that the tines will be turning. So while the tine bar is out of position, that's the best time to get to the 4 bolts that hold the bottom of the gearbox.
All right, let's do it. And always remember, safety first. So now that the tiller's elevated, we need to make sure we put our jack stands underneath the tiller as well, just in case it lets off pressure. So are we ready to pull the tine bar out?
Yeah, we'll just move it back behind the tiller out of our way.
All right, Ryan, I noticed you brought out the big guns to take the bolts out of the bottom. Why is that?
Yeah, so the most critical torque on this entire tiller at the factory is the 4 bolts holding this gearbox on. We want to keep it in place. So those are torqued really tight with split lock washers on the bottom. So I'm going to want this larger impact gun with the 3/4 inch socket to get those loose.
The gearbox is free.
The gearbox is free. We have this little brace here that you took the bolts out of, and we can just pull it up a little bit out of the way.
All right, Ryan, I noticed that you pulled a ring out of a snap ring out of this side. What's the reason for that?
Yeah, so there's a hexagon steel shaft that connects the top gearbox to the side gearbox. It runs all the way through here. So that snap ring is what actually keeps that shaft in place. This gearbox is made, obviously, to work this way or flipped all the way over for reverse direction. So what you're going to want to do is make sure that that vent plug is always on the top of the gearbox. Okay. So you're going to want to remove the vent plug and replace it with the plug that's on the bottom. Just switch the two.
Oh, so no extra parts or anything?
No, everything you need is already on the tiller.
Oh, awesome.
We're going to slide this over just a little bit and bring that shaft all the way out so we get clearance to flip that.
Oh, okay.
We'll kind of use the top of the tiller as a workbench here to help us hold this.
All right. All right, Ryan, so we've got the gearbox on the side, and I noticed you went and got a 5/16 Allen wrench for the bottom plug. You got a 22 millimeter for the air plug.
So for the vent plug, we're going to use the wrench, and for the drain plug in the bottom, you're going to use the Allen.
All right. Will it hurt to take them out at the same time if I take this one out?
No worries, but a little bit of oil may come out because we've used this tiller before, and this gearbox does have oil in it.
All right.
So you want the drain plug on my side pretty tight, but on that vent plug, just snug it up.
All right, so we've got the plugs back in place, which is just totally opposite of the way it was.
Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and flip it 90 degrees more back to the position where we can bolt it back to the tiller.
All right, perfect. All right, Ryan, I notice here there's 5 holes in the bottom. The one in the center is a lot wider. Is that for draining oil or?
Yeah, so that's gonna be a clearance hole for that drain plug that we just put back in the bottom, in what's now the bottom of the gearbox. So if you ever wanted to drain the oil or change the oil in this gearbox, that's an access point that you can do that without taking the gearbox.
And then we just line it right back up.
Make sure to put the bolts back in the location that they came out of, because the 2 in the top are just a little bit shorter than the 4 under the bottom. All right, so we got the 2 top bolts kind of finger tight back in place, so that's gonna align that gearbox and help us when we put the 4 bolts underneath.
And you don't want to go ahead and tighten these down because you might have to wiggle it a little bit to get your bottom bolts.
Yep. Yeah, so while we've got these bolts to where everything can still move just a little bit, we want to slide that shaft through there and get it through the top gearbox and insert it into the side gearbox. So again, we've got everything lined up before we tighten down the bolts. But when you slide that shaft through there, like you said, make sure you have this plastic guard in place.
So we just need to actually lower the tiller down a little bit, and I'll let you tell me when, and to make sure all of our holes line up.
Yeah, we want to make it as easy as possible. So rather than lifting that tine bar back up to where the tiller's at, we'll take the tiller down to it.
All right.
So we got it inserted between the 2 hubs, and now we'll let it on down so we can line up the bolts. So to make it easier, we'll just, now that we've got 2 bolts started in each side, we'll raise it back up to where we've been working on it at before, and we'll put those other bolts on there. So we've got everything done for the reversing process, and now we just need to put that guard back on there to get the tiller ready to operate.
Ryan, we have flipped the tines on a tiller. We've got a good friend, it takes about an hour.
Yeah, roughly an hour. With a little bit of help from you, we were able to get it done, and now we're ready to get in the field and start tilling.
All right.